What is going on, everybody? King Recon here to do a Bleach video. Now, what's interesting about today's video is that I'm going to be reacting to something I think I've done it like a few times for One Piece. And I've done it live for stuff like Hunter x Hunter. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we've ever done this for. But I don't think I've ever done a reaction to a Bleach theory video. So this is going to be a brand new experience for me. But I'm very excited. I'm excited. Shout out to Soul for being the individual who reached out and asked if I could react to this particular video. And the title has me interested. The Antithesis of the Almighty. And it's a focus on Uryu. A focus on Uryu and a potential inheritance of the Soul King's will. I find that to be so incredibly fascinating. I was like, you know what? I have to react to this. Especially since I'm expecting us to get some sort of Bleach stuff in the coming weeks or months for what's bound to be a 2026 release for the 4th season, which I'm so excited for. But I was like, you know what, man? Let me react to this. Let's see. Let's get the Bleach brain cooking because Unohana just dropped on the game, and I can't wait to hop on there and try her out and see how much fun she is to play. But without further ado, let's get into this. In 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Why? Why would one who can foresee the future try to obstruct it with his right arm? Could it be that that arm is controlled by the will of another and not the Soul King? Very well. In that case, I will simply have to obliterate the both of you, King and Arm.
Is Uryu an incarnated representative of Ryo's right arm and has the will of the Soul King? Let's talk about it. With Core 3 ending last year,
Gear 5.
we've received a lot of original content in the anime. Core 1, he learned about the war that took place 1,000 years ago between the Shinigami and Quincy. In Core 2, he fought against Senjumaru of Squad 0. Finally, in Core 3, Uryu killed her using his Shrift and in complete holy form. So I want us to focus on 2 possible theories that I believe Kubo is hinting and leading up to. The first one, I believe Uryu has the will of the Soul King. And the second one, Uryu is the new guardian that governs stillness in the world of the living. But before we get into that, I want to introduce you guys to my friend who I have the honor of creating this video with, Phoenix Fujin. Go ahead and say what's up, my guy.
Yo, what's poppin'?
We've both finished the manga of Bleach. So just know, in this video, there will be spoilers ahead for the manga of Bleach, as well as the light novel Can't For Your Own World.
Oh, good.
And
I don't have to say
using the name Mimi.
Normally I get scared.
In reference as a fusion of both Ukitake and Mimihagi. And with that being said, let's go ahead and begin. As we look at the body of the Soul King, his left and right hand each have a different number of irises. I used to think they represented the past, present, future, and almighty. Now I feel it's past, future, power, and will. Now what do I mean by that? Gerard Valkyrie is the heart of Ryo. He has 0. Mimihagi has 1, and he has the ability to govern stillness. In Ukitake's case, his sickness wasn't cured, but it was stopped from becoming worse. Pernida has 2, having the ability to show past events of the Soul King and give life furthering advancement. Yuha has 3 and Adonais has 4. Just as the body of Adonais was torn apart by the 5 great noble families and dispersed all over the world, I believe the will of Ryo was also dispersed and ended up inside of Uryu. Now, what does it mean to have the will of the Soul King? Well, the will of Ryo isn't just one-dimensional. It can mean the being's most internalized desires projected, or it could be viewed as having the domino effect of their actions' existence, aka fruition of their actions. Everything that stems from their actions is their will.
Picking up from the point of Yuha speaking to Mimitake, the question arises that if the will of Ryo doesn't reside within Mimihagi, then who else could potentially have this will? Who could Yuha be talking to when he says, "Then I shall blow away both you and that right arm"? Originally, I believe that this line was directed at Antithesis. However, seeing as how Yuha absorbs him rather than blow away, it's implied he's speaking to Mimitake. This confirms that with Ukitake's poem at the end of episode 2 in Core 3, "I was once you, soon you will become me."
To elaborate further on the poem, Ukitake was once the right arm of the Soul King and was able to take his place, becoming a pseudo Soul King candidate. I was once you. Now, down in the Soul Society, we have Ukitake's body, enveloped in darkness with a ring forming around his back. Soon you will become me. So we know where Ukitake's body is, and we know that Mimihagi is going to take over Ukitake's body down in Soul Society, fulfilling the poem of "Soon you will become me." But this begs the question now, where is Ukitake? Well, let me explain. In a previous episode, we see a conversation with Ukitake and Unohana. There he mentions to her they will see each other soon. He's referring to the fact that in the future, he will see her in hell. Now, thanks to the Hell arc, it's confirmed that Yamamoto, Ukitake, and Unohana are actually inside of hell. So this was a moment of foreshadowing. But in this arc, in the animated version, we now know that Ukitake and Mimihagi are switching roles. Mimihagi is now taking over the body of Ukitake, and Ukitake took control of the Mimihagi dark arm. This is why Yuha said, "I shall blow away both you and that right arm." So if we know that's Mimitake, then where is the will of Reo? If the will of the Soul King is to get rid of the Shinigami, then why block Yuha, his son, with his own right hand? Well, simply put, Reo's will resides elsewhere, and that's not Reo's will.
Prior to my next point, I wanted to preface with saying that based off this information alone, the reoccurring theme of the heart within Bleach and Gerard's existence means Reo's will wouldn't be where his physical heart is. Similarly to how Reishi has memories that stay dormant, Antithesis' will was most compatible with Uryu and thus resides within him. To elaborate further on this, Reo created the three worlds, and as a creator of what he's established, naturally would want to protect and preserve what exists. He protects Soul Society himself, while his will to protect what exists in the world of the living resides within Uryu. Seeing as how Uryu has experience not only working with the Shinigami, but teachings of Soken to protect the world they love, it makes sense that Reo's will resides within Uryu.
The heart and the will, they both are different things, yet I believe there is a link through Uryu. In chapter 268, Kaien said that a heart is created whenever two people grow close. Now, to have the will of someone doesn't necessarily mean you have met them, but you carry on the same or similar dreams that they did. You see this in One Piece. Luffy and Roger haven't met, but yet Luffy carries on the same and similar dreams that he did, becoming the Pirate King. But yet in this case, it's different. Gerard being the heart of Reo and Yuha's conversation with Mimitake, this shows that the heart and will can be separated. Similarly, Fullbringers can grow attached to the things they love. In a way, they're making a heart, since we know everything in the verse of Bleach has a soul. With Uryu potentially having the will of Reo, I believe that a bit of Reo's soul resides inside. In a way, that's another person, and they created a heart between the contact that they've made. Uryu has a desire to protect his loved ones in the world of the living. Perhaps Antithesis has a desire to keep the three worlds the way that they are, ultimately protecting the world of the living, just like Uryu.
Yeah, to add another layer to this, I believe the will of the Soul King was always inside of Uryu from birth based on how shrifts are given and received. As we know, both Yuha and Uryu share the same letter, A. The former has the Almighty, and the latter has the Antithesis. Thanks to Club Outside's Q&A, we know every Quincy is born with a letter already engraved on their soul, and Yuha bestows a power to them based on that letter, unlocking what's dormant within. Uryu quite literally has been put in dire situations with hollows, like Vasto Lord Ichigo and most notably Xyloporo, while not having dealt with the extremely toxic effect that we see every other Quincy go through when Hollow Reishi is involved. A couple of examples I can relate these circumstances to involve characters like Misaki with White and Kyuge and Ion in Wako Mundo. Since the Antithesis would essentially be a latent ability, it makes sense as to why he'd be able to survive these situations and show more durability to his soul, regardless of the toxic nature of Hollow Reishi to Quincy.
Based off this information alone, we believe Uryu having the will of Reo is what makes him special. Adonais is a Quincy Shinigami Fullbring Hollow hybrid. That means if he has the will to protect what he's created, it only makes sense that he would entrust the world of the living to someone who is similar to him, that being Uryu Ishida, who is a Quincy, friends with Soul Reapers, and related to a Shinigami Quincy Hollow Fullbring hybrid. Perhaps Uryu having the will of Reo turns the Hollow Reishi into non-Hollow Reishi, thus allowing his body to resist soul suicide. Uryu being the antithesis to the Almighty, we believe that Uryu is the will of Reo. Yuha is the power of Adonais. Hashwa is the other side of the coin to Yuha, as he has the balance, able to be temporarily bestowed with the power of the Almighty. When you look at Adonais with the Almighty eyes, he has 4, yet Yuha and Hashwa only have 3. Well, this is because they lack the will of Adonais. Thanks to the new content in the anime, we've also received this text of information.
This eye catcher gives a description of the torrent of Reo's power. This phenomenon occurs when the power of the Soul King, released from his seal, is too much for Yuha to contain and passes through his body and overflows. Appearing as a black murky current, it's actually a collection of spirits shaped like one-eyed babies. It attacks those it perceives as enemies like a tsunami, biting into them with its sharp fangs. There are various theories as to why it attacks Shinigami, including that it is a manifestation of an unconscious resentment towards the fact that the Soul King was once sealed away by Shinigami, that the Soul King's true identity was a Quincy and he harbored a grudge against the Shinigami, and that Yuha's will was mixed in with the torrent. Regarding the bit about the Soul King being sealed in the section of the translated theory, we got clarification from the Can't Fear Your Own World light novel. It stated that this wasn't a single Soul Reaper's doing, but the collective 5 great noble families that sealed Adonais away.
If we look through the lens of the unconscious resentment Reo has against the Shinigami theory, that means Core 3 Episode 28 is the extension of Yuha seeing the creation of the 3 worlds via the triplet world technique that Adonais used back in Core 2 Episode 24. In my eyes, this shows us that Pernida does have the ability of showing past events. I think Yuha seeing the event also helps to show the grudge that he and Adonais have towards the Soul Reapers. It makes it understandable. Now, do you guys actually believe Yuha was there for the creation of the 3 worlds? Or was it just Pernida showing him the events of the past? Let us know in the comments.
Taking the perspective that Miyagi became Ukitake's will, it would make sense that Adonais' power became under the will of Yuha after he absorbs him, thus ultimately attacking the Shinigami. Yuha has the power of Adonais but not his will, while Uryu could have a portion of his power through the will of the Soul King himself. Now that we have further context, let's focus back on the connection between Uryu and how he's connected with the will of Reo. The Mimihagi-like symbol appearing on Uryu's hand during his fight with Senjumaru represents that the will of the Soul King is always going to exist, thus a stagnant variable in the entire verse. That's not to confuse Uryu's thoughts with Reo's thoughts, or even to say all of his actions aren't of his own. Despite him fighting Ichigo and letting Yuha stomp the royal palace as he sees fit, his facial expressions and actions allude to not being all the way on board with Yuha's plan. Almost like he truly wants to be able to fight alongside Soul Reapers, despite him saying otherwise. In order to understand their connection, let's start with the left hand of the Soul King. Pernida. We know Pernida has always associated himself with being a Quincy. Thanks to Can't Fear Your Own World, we know that the Quincy have a direct connection to the Soul King via Soul King fragments. Being able to create a weapon from Reishi is being able to make a weapon from seemingly nothing, utilizing one's surroundings. Resourceful, adaptive, and ever-advancing all perfectly describe Quincy, especially Pernida, literally representing advancement. Mimihagi, on the other hand, represents stagnation. We know that he has a connection to the Shinigami, and thanks to the anime original scenes, also has a connection to the Quincy. Mimihagi shares a connection in a similar vein as Uryu, having both aided the Shinigami in battle. Just as Mimitake's Kamikake ritual is another of the Soul Reaper's connection to Ryo, the Mimihagi eye over Uryu's chest during Senjumaru's Bankai, and the blue vein Mimihagi pattern on his right hand are all connections linked directly to Adonais. They even show the blue vein transition on Mimihagi in the opening, directly tying him to the Quincy. Due to this, we believe the evidence given supports our theory.
So let's give a small recap. Why do we believe Uryu has the will of the Soul King? Well, that's due to him being the most suitable Quincy. And second, why is Uryu the new guardian that governs stillness? Well, there's a few reasons for that as well. The first one is the Mimihagi-shaped eye on his chest after he escapes Senjumaru's Bankai. The second one is the red almighty eyes that we see him with after escaping the Bankai. And at the end of the fight, there's a Mimihagi-like symbol appearing on his right hand. Now, to drive this point home, there's a scripture that I want to read. And it's Matthew 6:3. It says, "Don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing." Now, we know that Kubo has taken inspiration from different cultures and different religions. The Thousand Year Blood War is taking after Christianity, and this makes sense. Yuha represents the left side of the body, having the left hand of Ryo, and Yuha is not able to perceive the actions of Adonais and his body parts, especially the right side.
This cements the scripture even more. Mimihagi's placement is that of the right side, being the right arm of Ryo. Furthermore, if you let your right hand in on what the left is doing, you won't be able to perform the progress you need, which is exactly what Yuha's circumstance was. Picture two hands clasped together. You'll be unable to move freely. You can't advance if your right hand keeps you stagnated.
Oh, I like that. That's a great analogy, bro. For off the cuff, I just came up with that scripture and you threw that in. That's good. And sorry, guys, for the small rabbit trail. I just felt like it would tie into the theory and I just thought about it. So I said, you know what, why not? Alright, my bad. Go ahead and close us out.
Before we finish this theory video, we have 3 closing thoughts. And the first one is the Ashwelin flashback with Uryu and Katagiri. I noticed that no one was talking about this particular moment from the anime flashback, but you heard it here first. In this anime original scene, we see Katagiri's perspective of the Ashwelin event 9 years ago. Shortly after the Ishida family made falls, so does Uryu, and in the reflection of the rain's puddle is the Ashwelin ring in the sky, as well as a new strange object that appears. I genuinely believe that object is a Quincy bow and arrow. As we know, Katagiri doesn't pass immediately, but a few months after. Now, my questions are, whose bow and arrow appeared, and why was it drawn? Since at that moment, unlike Misaki, no one was in combat. Maybe it was from Yuha or another Quincy in his ranks? After the Ashwelin event, the still silver coming from Katagiri basically shows why Yuha couldn't do anything about the arrow, much like he can't see the events of things directly pertaining to the Soul King. The very Quincy Yuha steals from constantly inevitably becomes his demise, even in their death.
Our second closing thought is foreshadowing Uryu's connection to the Soul King. Another way to view what the will of Adonais isn't simply Shinigami and Quincy fighting together, but also his will is to maintain the version of the 3 worlds. If we look back at the Soul Society arc, we're able to recontextualize Uryu when he performed the Let Steal. The bow and his wing appeared on his right side of his body and not the left side, showing that Uryu is a stagnant variable in the universe.
The final closing thought we'll leave you with is in reference to decisions made by characters. Rayo may have chosen to create the three realms and may have had his body dismembered willingly in order to cooperate with the Soul Reapers, realizing that there will eventually and always inevitably be one Quincy to have the will to work with the Shinigami to maintain balance in the world rather than keeping everything stagnant. Everything just needed to line up first, like Uryu being a literal weapon against Yuha, partially thanks to Silken sowing the seeds. Or it could be that he knew it was futile, and since various parts of his body were scattered, that every possible future led to the development of the Soul King candidates, essentially creating multiple artificial right hands in the case anyone disturbs the peace and balance of the universe.
That's gonna do it for this video, guys. Getting this video out late was not a part of the plan. When we were trying to get the chibi models done, we got scammed for our money and then time. Like, this was not supposed to be late. We wanted this to be a quality video and not just a throwaway. We hope you guys enjoyed our theory video. Phoenix, my good brother, thank you for being a part of this amazing conversation. Anything you'd like to say before we leave?
Yeah. Thank you all for watching and being patient while we got this out. I truly am proud of seeing this, as it's not only my first Bleach theory video, but it's also my first collab, and who better to do it with than my good brother Soul here. We really put our essence into this video, even though it took a while. The entire process was extremely fun. I would genuinely appreciate it if you shared, liked the video, left a comment, especially to our other Bleach theorists out there that may just want to have a simple fun discussion. This would go a long way in the algorithm. We'd really appreciate that.
I don't think anyone else thought of this angle of Uryu and the Soul King.
I can tell you, I've heard
For
of it.
sure. I really thought we had some close calls too, dog. Like,
nah, man, because that's how much it actually took for us to get this video made. Like, you guys have no idea. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. We hope you guys like, comment, you subscribe, and go ahead and follow my brother Phoenix on his channel, for he's going to be uploading his own Bleach videos and gaming stuff and whatever else he has planned over there. But just want to say, we will see you guys in our next collaboration, and I will see you guys in my next video, because I'm working on another one currently. So until then,
bye-bye. Yo, great video, man. Great collaboration. A few thoughts. First thing I want to talk about is the Yuha question in the middle of the video. Let me see if I can go back to the Yuha moment. Absolutely loved it. What great theory. And there's so many things going into my brain right now that's spinning. I find it to be fascinating. I think this is the Uryu part, or I found it. If you would have asked me before this video, I probably would have said it's just the events of the past. I think after watching this video, I want to say that was Yuha himself that was there. And what's making me lean in that direction is that if we're looking at it, as you're discussing here, through the lens of the obvious Christian undertones that are throughout the course of the 1,000-year Blood War, everything came from something and must all return back to that thing in the future. And obviously, like you said, like the two of you discussed in regards to the idea of souls and everything having a soul within the Bleach universe, I honestly do believe that maybe not consciously, but Yuha was there in that moment, in the creation of the Bleach universe. That pieces of his Reishi, what would become Yuha, were there. Which I find to be really interesting. Because that adds a completely different layer to Yuha wanting the almighty ability in my eyes, as well as the existence of the Quincy's themselves, the idea of the Quincy's and the Soul Reapers and the Hollows, with that in mind, all stemming from this one thing, this one moment when all of this was created. Because it most certainly does feel like the Soul King obviously created them so they could all live together in balance and in harmony, with still the animal kingdom-esque way of one is a natural weakness, or is weak to another, right? Like Quincy's the Hollows, for example. And so there is that part of the chain. While some are stronger in other situations and others are, they thrive more in others. But I think Haschwald, Uryu, and Yuhan, in particular, this is really fascinating stuff that you presented here, specifically in regards to the Almighty, the Antithesis, and the balance. Because it makes you wonder why such things were etched, if they were etched into the soul. My brain is going crazy right now. Yuha, at the very beginning of the universe, then having a moment where Perninda takes them back to the beginning of the creation of that is so incredibly interesting to me. Because Yuha as a character fascinates me on the idea of wanting to see everything yet could not see anything. The idea of a character that for so many years was this individual who would eventually come to take the throne once again, being taken down by the very thing that he created, is obviously is a major element of this entire arc. But now that you're bringing the Uryu element into it, and his downfall is obviously at the behest of things that he created, literally, right? And Uryu and Ichigo now, especially now that you're talking about the Ashwaulan, it makes me think that the bow and arrow is actually not something that belonged to anyone, but what it could represent is Uryu's bow and arrow from the current time, right? Like a future, a potential possibility from the future that was created thanks to Juha's own actions. Similar to how the Ashwaulan created the Ichigo that would then be the one to take him out, and also created the Aizen, technically, of that would lead towards the demise and within the end of the series as well. So when you have those three, we have Ichigo, Aizen, and Uryu, which were all either impacted in Aizen's case from just mere fascination and knowing what could be done with really taking his plans really going into fruition after the Ashwaulan, and being fascinated by the idea of the hollow and surpassing the barriers of the limitations that we thought were possible, and then most certainly they thought were possible. Ichigo, Aizen, and Uryu, all in that moment, though Yuha, of course, could not foresee that, because once again, he can see everything but cannot see anything. That then led to his demise. A demise that he more than likely welcomed, right? Leading back to the amazing conversation at the end of the Blade chapter 684. But that is extremely interesting. I love this video. I love this video because it's not only is it an idea that I've never thought of, it's an idea that sort of puts a bow on why Ichigo and Uryu felt like the two individuals that needed to be at the central core of all of this, especially in this arc, but throughout the course of the entire series, in multiple different ways. And focus on them at the beginning of the Urankar saga, well, obviously the core 5, core 6 technically, are all main characters in their own areas. But Ichigo and Uryu have just been so prevalent throughout the course of the entire story that you really opened my eyes to the potential thematic possibilities and also just really cool lore implications that could be cooked here in Core 4. Because I've never thought about the Mimihagi thing, and I always wonder what that symbol was in that episode. But that actually makes a lot of sense. But going back to, once again, to the Ashvalan moment, I honestly do believe that rather than it being a bow and arrow that signifies a battle or an individual at that point in time or a passing of the torch per se, I really think it's just a future that was created there, showcased through visual imagery. Especially if Kubo's involved in this, we know how much he loves his visual imagery. But I really love this idea you've presented with this question in the middle of the video of what Yuha saw, or I'm sorry, what it was that he saw in regards to it being either a record of the past or something that he himself lived through. And I want to say that he himself lived through it, and not just Yuha. I feel like everyone in the Bleach universe lived through it, because that was the moment when everything was born. When all of them, Quincy's, Soul Reapers, Hollows, every single soul came from that moment, right? And they would later, be dispersed at different time periods. But for Yuha to be able to go back to that, to the inception of the universe, I mean, of course, that's something that I think all of us would like an opportunity to be able to see. But to have your main antagonist who can see absolutely everything at a later date, obviously, not at that moment whenever he saw it, but who does have that direct connection to Adonais and does have that a moment of that connection, going back into biblical terms, of like the prophetic nature of the return or things that have yet to become. It's so interesting that you have a character that sort of has that desire for everything to return back to its beginning and also one day to its end, and for Yuha, similar to the Ashvalan moment for Aizen and Ichigo and Uryu, all being where their lives were forever changed. It is interesting how we don't know how things could have gone if Perminda had never shown Yuha that. That kind of felt like just a flick moment, similar to going back into the book of Genesis, with the ye shall become gods after attaining the fruit of knowledge. And it's like Yuha dared to bear his fang at the fruit of knowledge that would give him an opportunity to learn about the creation of the universe, and that he was never the same ever again, and thus fell after that, right? I also find that to be very fascinating of itself, and I'm looking forward to seeing how all of this stuff is explored in the fourth core, because like you said, we have had so many anime original sequences and moments with specifically those characters, specifically with Uryu and Ichigo and Yuha, that I'm looking forward to how it is that they decide to wrap all of this up because of all these different possibilities. Really have my brain going right now. There's so much there, but I'm in awe. I'm in awe of what y'all were able to achieve here, because not only was this a great video for really enlightening a topic that I have yet to see anyone talk about, but it's also the way that it was structured leaves so much up to own personal interpretation and discussion. Like, this is something I would genuinely like to have a conversation with others. It is that interesting of a topic. But I think one thing is for sure, and that is that Uryu and Ichigo, and the more that we focus on the Soul King's connection to Ichigo throughout the course of this arc, we also have to then put focus on the connection with both Yuha and the Soul King, on both Ichigo and Uryu. So the more focus that we saw on that on Ichigo in Core 1 with Yuha and Core 2 with the Soul King, and then Core 3 with both, the same thing could be said obviously for Uryu, which I'm so glad that you highlighted upon that as well within the video. And now when it gets to Core 4 and we see the true connection between Adonais, Yuha, Ichigo, and Uryu, it is going to lead to that ending being viewed from a different lens. And I already think it's a phenomenal ending, not the ending itself. Y'all know how much I love that ending. I'm talking about those final like 4 to 5 chapters of that battle, where you get to see so many of the core central ideas of the series come into fruition there. And I think it would be so cool of the anime to not only have that final volume be filled with thematic brilliance, but also tie up loose ends from a lore standpoint as well, especially before we get into Hell Arc content, which is going to be necessary, because I always think back to the Hell Arc, starting off with that specific chapter about, Aizen and Yuha being the ones that held things in balance, and once they were removed from that equation, then these things were able to start taking place. Once Aizen in particular disappeared, holding the realms together, sort of serving as like pseudo Soul King within that final, the beginning of the Hell Arc. All of that stuff is so interesting to me. And the Aizen's connection to this whole Soul King bit, of course, him daring once again to bare his fangs at the Soul King, calling it that thing. It's like Bleach has multiple different characters that their major flaw, their demise, was of their own doing. And I think it would be so cool for us to then circle back here within this final core and have that moment with Aizen where his own demise led to his biggest success as well, right? Because obviously it was Ichigo the one that took him down, but because he stayed true to it, and obviously he has the final conversation in the series on courage, and he knows that better than anyone, about not only his own journey as a character, having the courage to be able to do certain things, but also the courage of his enemies. And I think it would be... I'm looking forward to seeing how that's explored through the lens of what you're talking about here. With the Aizen stuff, with the Yuha stuff, with the Soul King stuff, with the Adonai stuff, with the Ichigo and Uryu stuff, and how all of that comes to fruition in a finale that is undoubtedly going to... I mean, we know from the manga that it touches upon a lot of these things. But now with all these new additions in the anime, I truly wonder how it's going to play out. And then there's the idea of the Quincy's. The idea of the Soul Reapers coming in and taking this place from what originally belonged to the Quincy's. The two of them having that generational dispute. Seemingly endless dispute. And for one on both sides, and Ichigo on one side, and an Uryu on the other, to be the ones that finally put an end to the endless cycle that's prevalent in so many pieces of media, especially in the Japanese side of things, about putting an end to the cycle. For these two to be at the very center of that, then both of them would need to be connected to the Soul King and Yuha in multiple different ways. And I think what you're presenting here is exactly that. Where by the time we finish Core 4, by the time we finish the Bleach 1000-Year Blood War and the anime version of this, we're going to have a complete understanding of what that connection is with Uryu, Adonais, and Yuha, and Ichigo, Adonais, and Yuha, and then of course their connection to each other. So I love this idea you've presented. I love the conversation that both of you had. And it's an eye-opening video in regards to what they could potentially be doing with the anime version of this arc as we head into Core 4. And I just thought it was an excellent theory. Exciting stuff, honestly. Both from a lore standpoint and a thematic standpoint. So, Core 4, man, I know we've all been looking forward to it just because of the really cool moments that are going to be in there. But specifically those last few episodes and potential Hell Arc implications. God, how awesome would that be to have a cliffhanger like that, right? But even before we get into that, seeing how they wrap all this up and answer all those questions within the anime version of this is going to be extremely interesting. Because one of my favorite parts about the 1,000 Year Blood War, the manga version, is that was Kubo's 1,000 Year Blood War as he created it in that part of his life, and that he could not have replicated that arc ever again in another part of his life. What we're seeing here is sort of his Evangelion to the Evangelion rebuild, where it's his opportunity to be able to make an arc that obviously meant a lot to him again, but 10 years later. It's not going to be the same arc, though a lot of the core is going to be there. But this is the Kubo of now and what his answer is to the 1,000 Year Blood War content now. And so I wonder what must have happened on his journey from the original ending of the arc until now for there to be so much emphasis on this Uryu and Ichigo plot. And it was obviously there within the original manga, but it really does feel like his own journey from that point is going to be at the central core of this final season, and is going to tie together everything that we're talking about here today. But I can tell you what, this video just got me so excited for the character conclusion, the anime character conclusion of all of these characters, of Yuha and Ice, Ichigo, Aizen, Aizen from what I'm talking about here, and Uryu, because they all have a connection to each other. And I'm excited. I'm excited. So I thank you once again. I thank both of you for taking the time to be able to record that really great video. And I hope that Bleach fans around the world get an opportunity to also watch that theory before heading into Core 4. Because whether it's something that you agree with or not, it is very good. It's great food for thought, and also opens up the possibilities of what could happen and what could be touched upon in this final season, and all the new anime original content that could be added to further explore elements like these. And if we ever do continue the Hell Arc, then it would, all the stuff we're talking about here could be taken to an even greater extent within there, because then you would have an opportunity to be able to talk about things from the other side, right? Because right now, what we've explored within the Bleach universe is everything that's above here, right? So we're exploring all of this and where life leads to on the very toppest of the pinnacle, going back to the beginning of everything, and also the end of everything, right? Because where everything comes from in what we're talking about in that Yuha Adanaya section, that's where everything comes from, but that's also where everything returns to eventually, right? In this, it goes all ratio individuals going to either Soul Society and or Hell. And I think having an opportunity to explore that other side, especially with what we saw within that first chapter with Unohana, with Ukitake, with Yamamoto, and the kind of things that we can see now after we've gone through an entire series exploring one side of things, it would be so interesting, especially after that Hellverse movie, which I already thought presented really cool ideas in and of itself. But to have an entire arc with the Kubology pen on it to explore all these things that we're discussing here, but from another lens, would just be super fun. So I'm hoping it returns, because I love Bleach, obviously, and but more than my love for Bleach, especially in recent years, I'm so fascinated with his mind. I think he has a really great mind, a mind for exploring stuff that genuinely interests me, while also having the really cool action and battle sequences that always get my blood pumping, right? So Bleach has always been a great mix. Bleach is like, I should say Xenoblade is like Bleach. And I've been playing a lot of Xenoblade lately, where it is a series that presents ideas, concepts, and things that really fascinate me. I mean, they endlessly fascinate me, while at the same time presenting some of the coolest stuff you'll ever see. And I think that mix is what's allowed Bleach to resonate with so many people for so many years, and will allow it to continue to resonate with people for as long as it is prevalent within our mind's eye. But I thank you once again for this video, and I've been rambling long enough. This is how I know it was a good video. I'm out here rambling like I just finished an anime episode or something. But I appreciate y'all so much. Once again, go check out this video from Soul. I will leave a link to this in the description box down below. And all love to the individuals involved in making this. And I can't wait. I'm even more excited now for Core 4, man. It is going to be goated. So, awesome discussion. So excited for Bleach to come back. And let me know what y'all thought about this theory, either in this comment section, or you could tell Soul yourself within his own comment section for the video as well. I will see y'all. Take care. I can't wait for Bleach to come back now, man.